All right, are we live? How's the audio? How's the video? Can you see the screen next to me? We've got a lot to talk about. Cheers. I hope your day is going well. Are you excited to meet your alien overlords? I, for one, am kind of excited. I'm looking forward to it. So, just doing a quick audio video check here to make sure we've got some new software going on. So, how is everybody? If you just leave a comment in the comment section so that I know you can hear and see the video okay. Or else I guess I could just jump onto the... Are we live yet? It says we're live, so are we live? Ladies and gentlemen, test 1, 2, 3. Are we live? It says we are streaming. Can you see me? Oh, it doesn't look like we're live yet. Are we live? Yeah, okay. Here we go. Boom. I think we're live now. Ladies and gentlemen, fantastic. Thank you very much for being here. Are you excited to meet your new alien overlords? I am. It's supposed to start tomorrow. Now, this is really interesting because I've been following the Webbots for 15 plus years. If you go back before 2011, we're choppy. Well, hopefully it'll pick up here. We should have, man. Okay, well, we're just going to deal with it for now. Hopefully it'll get better here. It might be the video sending up too much res. Okay, 10-4. All right. Have you heard of the Webbots? Have you heard of Clif High? I've been following Clif now off and on for like 15 plus years. I was watching his work a lot back in the day before YouTube was big. And it was basically the forums and the blogs and websites like Godlike Productions and Above Top Secret. And so people would leave these incredible predictions. And actually, if you go back and look at my predictions from 2012, many of them have came true, which is pretty cool, but also kind of scary. But anyway, this Webbot prediction from like 2009 predicted that there was going to be a bunch of UAP activity in the skies. I got notes. Let me see if I can share this with you. And that Joe Rogan was going to do an interview with President Trump. And then 39 days later, there was going to be some catalyst, some major event in the skies involving UFOs, UAPs, and military. So the 2009 prediction, according to the article I'm going to leave in the, now I didn't see this prediction at the time, but I do remember the predictions that seemed to eerily parallel Fukushima, the forecasts, what happened there, like the ill winds and some other things before 2011. But listen to this 2009 prediction. Dramatic future involvement, military and UFO conflict. UFOs will, this is a prediction, it's just a prediction, so UFOs will combat against each other. There's going to be a specific trigger event that's going to set these events in motion. Once this occurs, the event will happen 39 days after this catalyst. The catalyst being an interview between Joe Rogan and Donald Trump. 39 days later, a massive battle will take place, which is, according to the numbers, December 3rd, tomorrow, 2024, a major event in the skies will take place. So, now the question is, let's say this doesn't happen tomorrow. Look at all the stuff that's already been going on. And how in the hell did you predict an interview between Rogan and Trump like 16 years, 15 years before it happened? That's pretty wild. Was Joe Rogan doing podcasts back then? I don't know. I'll have to look into it, but pretty remarkable. Now, let's take this a step further. Yeah, I've talked to Clif many times. I mean, I've been at Clif's house before. Clif shared information with me. Clif's a very interesting guy, and he's always been very respectful to me. So I hope Clif's doing good. He's a mysterious guy. He's definitely a mysterious guy. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But anyway, I hope you're doing well, Clif, wherever you are. Now let's go to these recent events that have been taking place. So I'm going to go through this. Let's look at these events that have happened over the past few years. And I'm going to share with you a list of events where UAPs flew over nuclear facilities. And this has been going on for over 60, 70 years. Yeah, documented. Wow. Like before the internet was even the internet. So this information is available. But let's go look at the most recent activities. Even if there isn't a major UFO invasion tomorrow or an event takes place that creates this intergalactic war, and it's not tomorrow yet, so time will tell. If I was to put my money on it, and if I could go to Vegas and bet on this, well, anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. All right. How come Sportsbook doesn't let you bet on UFO invasions? What would the odds be? November 2024, unidentified drones over U.S. Air Force in the UK. Let's go back. Let's go back to December 2023. If we go back to December 2023, there were 17 days worth of UAPs or drones, they're calling them drones, flying over Langley. Langley is one of the most, it's one of the crown jewels of the U.S. military. It is like the base of bases. Billions of dollars worth of software and hardware and equipment at Langley. They don't want you flying drones over the base, right? There's big penalties for that. And so one of the personnel at the base comes out in a meeting and says, I was observing these things myself. They're 20 feet in length. They're flying over the base at about 3,000 feet elevation, and they're going about 100 miles an hour. Now, I've heard other reports of mysterious drones flying over Nellis Air Force Base around Area 51. 3 different RAF, Royal Air Force locations in the UK recently. The crown jewel of the Navy fleet via UK, the Royal Navy, I think. Well, listen to this. All right, let's just go to the report here. Between November 20th and 22nd, small unmanned aerial systems were observed over 3 Royal Air Force bases in eastern England, Lakenheath, Middenhall, and RAF Feltwell. These bases are utilized by the United States Air Force, and this is just my hand movement, folks. There's no secret, handshake or anything like that. I'm not a part of any secret societies that I know of, unless it's that secret. So it's just body language. So don't think, I'm not. Anyway, so I read some of the comments sometimes going, Rex, you're doing the 666 sign with your hands, man. No, I'm not. I'm just moving my hands. I'm active, okay? We're moving around here. The bases are utilized by the United States Air Force. They're significant for housing advanced military assets. The drones varied in number, size, and configuration. The United States Air Force monitored the situation and collaborated with local authorities to ensure the safety of personnel and infrastructure. Then, the Queen Elizabeth. In late November, an unidentified drone reportedly followed the UK's flagship aircraft carrier, the HMS Queen Elizabeth, as it entered the port of Hamburg. The German military attempted to neutralize the drone using jammers, but it evaded capture. Doesn't sound like a hobby drone to me. This incident occurred shortly after drones were spotted over the aforementioned RAF bases, raising concerns about potential surveillance or threats to military assets. Then we go to Langley. December 2023. Even if I was a Mason, and I'm not, so what? I know a lot of really cool Freemasons out there. Like, there's a lot of really cool. I know a guy that's a Freemason that got in trouble by his other Freemason friends because he was talking too much about certain things that they didn't like at a certain time. And they sent him a text and they're like, you can't talk about that kind of stuff. So anyway, I'm just saying. It's kind of funny when I read these. It's ignorance a lot of times, right? Ignorance can create fear and ideas. And anyway, and there could be one person, a part of a certain group that does something really bad. And they're like, well, they all must be that way because that one person. No, it's not how it works. Anyway, so we go to Langley, December 2023. Unauthorized drone swarms were reported over Langley Air Force Base in Virginia. These incursions lasting 17 nights. Now, look at the number here, folks. This is where it gets really interesting. This happened for 17 nights. That's significant. Now, it then goes on to say involving small, remotely operated vehicles. So they're 20 feet approximately in size. They harass and swarm and recon and gather intel on Langley for 17 days. It's kind of weird, right? 17 days. So why 17 days? I don't know. Well, did it just take that many days? And how did they not capture one in 17 days? How did they not follow it with satellite and track it to where it went? I thought to myself, okay, let's say they're launching these things via van or via semi-truck. You could have an inconspicuous van or car or semi-truck that you could have at a certain location. This is just, I'm thinking out loud here. How could they do this with and evade capture? They launch these things somewhere, and maybe they fold down so they can fit into a smaller compartment. I'm thinking, okay, possibly. And so they go to certain areas, they launch them, and then they come back, they hide them, they drive off like some James Bond film. But you would have satellites that could capture that. And there may be laws in place where you can't shoot them down if you're the military because you're close to civilians, and so you need to get the FBI or law enforcement involved. Absolutely. But there would also be some type of intelligence or recon gathering to track these things to see where they're going. I would think, I'm just assuming here, because if you have satellites that can see what somebody's shoelaces look like from space that were that advanced 40 years ago, I'm just saying. So how are they getting away for that long? And so I'm going 17 days. They're 20 feet in size. They're not hobby drones. They're getting away. They're avoiding capture. How are they doing that? Are they really just drones? I guess you could technically call them drones if there's nobody in there, but is it like foreign adversary gathering the intel? Are we talking, Russia or China or some type of advanced nation somewhere else that's gathering intel on all of our bases? It's definitely plausible, but you would think with the technologies that we have, being the most advanced military on the planet as far as publicly, I guess, that we would be able to capture these things. And I'm just thinking, okay. And then my friend Robert, custodian file, leaves a comment in the comments section, reminds me about the 1952 events that took place for 17 days over the Capitol. And you can look this up. This is public information. In 1952, UFOs and UAPs swarmed the Capitol. Guess for how many days? Let's see if we got, how's everyone? All right. We got some people in the chat. That's great. So good to see y'all, everybody. Thank you for being here. I love doing these live streams. So I was thinking to myself, okay, so we go back to 1952, and then I looked at the gap, like the time frame. So I said, this is significant. UFOs fly over the Capitol for 17 days in 1952. What's the significance? And then I thought to myself, okay, let's do the math from 1952 to the events at Langley. How many years apart is that? So you do the math, and it's 71 years apart because it happened the end of last year, 2023. So 1952, 2023, you've got a 71-year gap. And then they fly over Langley for 17 days, right? Are you staying with me here? So let's reverse the 71. We've now got 17 days over the Capitol, 71 years later, reversed to 17. So you've got that 71-17 symbolism. And then you've got 17 days over Langley. So this could be some type of like secret code, right? Where people are like, well, we're talking to those other guys on that other side of the world, but we're going to talk to them in code with headlines. We're going to use certain numbers so we can communicate, and only us in the informed world will know what we're talking about. 17. Okay. It's possible. And that could be a part of it. It's a message. It's a message. Now imagine you are a civilization or a species or a technology that can live or be active for thousands of years, or maybe eternal. Like continue to update, continue to fix itself. If it's similar to artificial intelligence but synthetic intelligence, and it just evaluates the world. It watches over the world. It watches over the civilizations. It watches over people. And these things have their eyes on specific people and specific locations because it is aware of our potential. And so these UAPs are these drones that they're calling them. Some of them very well could be these silver metallic orbs that have been seen for, I don't know how, I've seen one. Kristen saw one. We saw it together, daytime, right there, 11 o'clock position, 50 feet off the ground or less, about 2 o'clock in the daytime. This was just a few years ago out here in southern Colorado. We both saw it at the same time. I was like, holy crap, did you see that? I wish I would have saw that. She's like, what, that disc? I'm like, well, yeah, I saw an orb. She's like, yeah, I saw it. It was shiny. Did some research, looked it up, and I saw other photographs of these things. And so that's probably what is tracking and reconning many of these bases and facilities and infrastructure and nuclear sites. And in a minute, we're going to talk about these nuclear locations that have literally had these UAPs fly over them, turn off the facilities, and take off. Look at how close we are right now to complete chaos as a whole, as a world. We look at our civilization and where we are at technologically, and if we can compare that to our morals, and we look at the people that have access to these technologies, where are their morals? And I'm asking a question. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm saying where are their emotions and morals in comparison to the technologies that they have access to and the abilities that they have. And so if we're getting ready for something even larger at a larger scale, and these things are going out reconning every single base and facility, then they have the intel on strategic assets, where they're located, and then it knows potentially what it needs to do if conflict heightens. Am I making sense here? So 17, also look at the letter that 17 links to, which is very interesting. And there's been a lot of misinformation and a lot of hoodwinking and a lot of manipulation with that letter. So be careful I'm just saying, like, anyway, everything can be infiltrated pretty much, right? So certain things can start out with the right intentions, but then something else can kind of come in and take that and infiltrate it and then promote it as such. Anyway, that's a whole other podcast. But we've got these UAPs that are flying over Langley, 3 different RAF sites, information of UAPs close to Area 51 and Nellis Air Force Base. And then now we're going to go through drones still being spotted over bases in England. The Scottish Sun, unidentified drone follows UK's $3 billion flagship aircraft carrier days after a fleet of UAPs. The drone incursions over Langley, tons of information about that. But now let's go to some events that took place prior. So 2021 to 2023, drone sightings near UK nuclear facilities. Between August 2021 and December 2021, the Ministry of Defense Police in the UK recorded 10 drone-related incidents near nuclear facilities. These incidents ranged from alarm activations and direct sightings to authorized drone flights. Okay. The data indicates ongoing concerns about unauthorized drone activity near sensitive sites. And that's the UK Defense Journal. Drone threat concerns at 25 spotted over nuclear facilities. Historical context. Let's look at some of these UAP sightings over nuclear facilities. Over the past 75 years, there's been numerous reports of UAPs near sites associated with nuclear power, weaponry, and technology. High-ranking U.S. military and intelligence personnel have documented such phenomena, suggesting a long-standing pattern of UAP activity near critical infrastructure. History. These incidents underscore the importance of robust surveillance and defense mechanisms to protect sensitive military and nuclear facilities from potential threats posed by unauthorized aerial activities. Yeah, but then when you have a intelligent metallic orb that seems to defy the laws of what most people know of as physics. It can go anywhere at any time, possibly even transferring into some type of wormhole or some type of portal. How are you gonna protect yourself from that? Unless you're at that level and can figure out a way to reverse engineer. It was interesting because I was reading some of the reports about how when they were trying to capture the frequencies that these drones were using, they were on like a different frequency band. And I wonder what frequency band that would be. I wonder if it'd be in like the terahertz range or maybe even beyond that. I don't know. But you would think if it's running at like 3.4 gigahertz or something that they would be able to track it and turn it off and just shut it down. But these things are somehow avoiding capture. And after we started questioning the narrative, like, are these really hobby drones, folks? Guess what? The news is coming out. These aren't hobby drones. Well, no, duh. Come on, man. So I interviewed a gentleman that wrote a book on these UAP sightings over military sites and nuclear sites. And it was a great interview. I need to go back and find that. I think that gentleman still lives out here in Colorado. Hastings, Robert, I think that's his name. I'll double check. But he wrote a really cool book on that. So here's some recent reports here. And now there's criminal investigations launched after drones spotted by U.S. Air Force over the UK bases. So this is really cool right here. Now, this is the 1952 incident that took place, or that for 17 days. And somebody pointed out, like in one of these images, what looks like orbs in the sky are actually just, it's a reflection of the lights on the ground. And so thank you for noticing that. That would make sense. Yeah, like if you look at this and these lights, they could very well be a reflection from the lights on the ground that are up in the air here. However, that's not the only one that we've got. And there wasn't just one photograph that created a 17-day buzz. Where do we go here? Oops. Okay, let's go back to where we were. What happened to it? Like it just disappeared. What happened to the photos? They just disappeared. Well, somebody said, why would spy drones have their lights on? It's a great question. Why would spy drones have their lights on? Now, if you want to get somebody's attention, you would have your lights on. You'd be like, hey, look at me. I'm flying over your secret military base and I'm an alien. Ha ha. You can't capture me. I'm the gingerbread man. Takes off from the fourth dimension. I would not recommend that, though. That would be a really bad idea to do that. So do not do that or even attempt to do that. These aliens, I mean, what if they're just like, what if they've been here for thousands of years and they've been keeping tabs on us for thousands of years. And now we're getting to a point where there could be something that takes us back to the Stone Age. And so they're like, hey, hello. We got all the recon on all of you. We do not want you hurting each other. Come on, I don't know. I hope so. Or we could look at the aspect of it being real nefarious and them gathering all this recon so that once they get all the recon that they need, once they have everything that they need, they're like, okay, phase 2, push the button. Why wouldn't they have done that already, though? Is the question that I would ask. Unless they don't have all the intel that they need. So, look at this. Over the past 70 years, numerous reports have documented unidentified aerial phenomena. UAP near nuclear facilities worldwide. Incidents have raised concerns about national security and the potential implications such encounters. Below is a summary of notable incidents and investigations. From the 1940s through the 1990s, early reports and investigations following the detonation of atomic bombs in 1945 was a significant increase in UAP sightings near nuclear sites. Declassified U.S. government reports from agencies like the FBI, CIA have documented 39 such accounts between the 40s and 90s. These incidents often involve UAPs hovering near facilities associated with nuclear weapons and technology. 1967, the Malmstrom Air Force Base, Montana. March 1967, the U.S. Air Force personnel reported that UAPs deactivated nuclear missiles at the base. Eyewitnesses claimed that UAPs hovered over missile silos, leading to the sudden shutdown of multiple ICBMs. This incident has been a focal point in discussions about UAPs' potential impact on national security. 1970s through the 80s, continued encounters. Loring Air Force Base, Maine, October 1975. Security personnel observed unidentified aircraft hovering over the base's nuclear weapons storage area. The objects were described as having powerful lights and exhibited flight patterns inconsistent with known aircraft. Despite extensive investigations, the origins of these objects remained unexplained. 1984, Hudson Valley, New York. Between 83 and 84, residents reported sightings of large, silent, V-shaped objects with bright lights. Notably on July 24, 1984, security guards at the Indian Point nuclear power plant observed a massive UFO hovering over the facility for approximately 15 minutes. The object was described as being about 900 feet in length. Wow. 2000. Through the 2020s. Renewed attention and official acknowledgement. Former security officers at Area 2 at Nellis Air Force Base, a storage facility for nuclear warheads, reported multiple intrusions by unknown aircraft from the late 90s through 2004. These incidents involve unidentified aircraft maneuvering near sensitive areas, prompting security alerts. 2021 Pentagon acknowledgement. June 2021, Luis Elizondo, former head of the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, stated that UAPs had repeatedly taken U.S. nuclear systems offline. He emphasized that these incidents have been occurring since the 1950s, suggesting that the phenomena could not be attributed to foreign adversaries. American Military News. Above that, it's WNCT, Investigating UFOs and Nukes, June 30th, 2021. From that article, this next article is from The Hill. Langley Air Force Base, December 2023, Langley Air Force Base experienced 17 consecutive nights of drone incursions. These drones, approximately 20 feet in length and capable of speeds over 100 miles per hour, appeared shortly after sunset each evening. Despite efforts to intercept or identify them, the origins and operators of these drones remain unknown. The drones did not exhibit hostile behavior, but prompted heightened security measures, including the repositioning of F-22 Raptor fighters. Now, when somebody mentioned, if 100 miles an hour isn't that fast. You're right, it's not. And guess what? If you're going to gather recon and intel on a facility traveling at 100,000 miles an hour or, 1,000 miles an hour, it's going to be a little more difficult to survey the area, right? So I think 100 miles per hour is keeping them fast enough to where they can evade capture if they need to, but also they're going slow enough that they know you're watching them because they want to be watched. They want to be observed. They want you to know they're there. And see, that's another thing that makes me think they're not foreign adversaries, folks. If they were foreign adversaries, they wouldn't want us to see them. There is no way. They're not hobby drones. They're probably not foreign adversaries. They're probably not Russian. They're probably not Chinese. And they're making themselves known. They're using specific numerology like 17, which links to a specific letter, and then that links to other things. 2030, a little over 5 years away, coming up. Ray Kurzweil's theory on the singularity in 2030. Asteroid Apophis. And the 2029 Friday the 13th flyby. Its closest point to Earth is going to be Friday the 13th. What a date. And they're like, don't worry, it's okay. There's practically no chance that it's going to harm Earth or even get close enough to harm Earth. But at first we thought it was going to be bad, but the more we update it, the better off it looks. So don't worry, folks. And then all these other agendas that seem to be linked to that time. Like, what's going on with 2030? That's got to be a huge milestone and a significant point for this planet, for us as a species, for our consciousness. And I keep thinking the return of something. I don't know if it's going to be the return of an asteroid. Because here, if we've got if we've got 5 more years to track an asteroid and do something about that asteroid, they're most likely going to figure out a way to deflect it somehow, whether they're using these large like solar mirrors in space and they're figuring out a way to just deflect it enough to where it won't be catastrophic, or they use some type of technology with weaponry, or, there's a multitude of options, but they've been working on this stuff for years. And the Space Force is more than just, there's a lot involved, and I could definitely see them having enough time to move that. However, what if there is a return of something that's so great that they can't stop it? So what they do is they prepare for it in a way where they get as much under some type of digital control as possible for observations, for tracking, and for other various purposes, obviously for efficiency purposes. I could see that the technology can be just as amazing as it can be frightening. What if around that time frame, that's when they make themselves known, and the powers that be know that when this has happened in the past, certain archetypes and ideas have been created, certain religions maybe have spawned from that, and instead of looking at it for what it is, like entire cultures are created around those events, praising, worship like they're gods almost, versus, I don't know. That's a very deep philosophical conversation that we can get into at another time. Like, definitely want to check me out over on Patreon. We've got some great videos on Patreon. We have long format interviews on Patreon, guest interviews on Patreon going back like 8 years. So, and it helps with Leap Project, and it helps with our costs and expenses. So somebody made a comment the other day because I posted a part of a video up on Patreon. They got so upset, and I was like, look, man, it's $5 to be a Patreon. I'll send you $10. You'll have 2 months. Okay. Are we good? But anyway, I do about 10 to 12 hours a day worth of podcasts, and with all the equipment and all the time and stuff, it does cost money to do this. So $5, man, come on, I'll hook you up. I can figure, I can find $10 here somewhere. But so thank you for your support. I appreciate that. But let's go back to this for a minute. So we've got ongoing investigations and theory. Yep, Robert Hastings, right on. I was right on the money. Researchers like Robert Hastings have dedicated extensive studies to the correlation between UAP sightings and nuclear facilities. Hastings has interviewed over 160 veterans who witnessed UAP activities near nuclear sites, suggesting a deliberate interest of UAPs in humanity's nuclear capabilities. Somebody in the chat that said, I'm upset too? Come on, man. Lighten up. How's everybody doing? I've been reading I'll read the comments here in a moment here. Let's see if we've got, oh wow, we've got a pretty good group here. Hey everybody. Cheers. May the force be with us. We need it. I just did a great interview yesterday with Jacob Israel. You should go listen to that. He did an awesome job editing it and adding video and audio bites to it. So check out Jacob Israel. But let's go back to this. The U.S. government has initiated several programs to investigate UAPs, including Project Blue Book and the more recent establishment of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO. These efforts aim to understand the nature of origin of UAPs, especially those observed near sensitive military and nuclear installations. The persistent occurrence of UAP sightings near nuclear facilities over the past 7 decades continues to raise questions about the nature of these phenomena and their potential implications for national and global security. People, time, the times. I want to go back to the, it's so weird. How did that happen? Here we go. Yeah. Is this it? Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to the reports from the 50s. This is what I wanted to show you. You can see that one image is probably just the lights. Like if we look at this third image over, this is most likely just the lights from the ground that somehow got superimposed in the image. But that's not what created, it's called the flap. This 17-day event is called the flap. Now, one, I've heard people blame like some secret space program that was tied to the the Third Reich or the Nazis or the Fourth Reich? Maybe. I doubt it. I doubt these are German. I doubt these are Nazis flying over for 17 days, because if it was, there would probably be more destruction involved. I'm just saying. Okay. So whatever these things were, maybe, it could be some type of program, some type of military psyops project. I mean, that's possible. Is it plausible? I don't know if it's plausible. Is it possible? Yes. Just about anything's possible. But around that time, not only were there reports of like major activity around the capital, but prior to that and after that, New Mexico, major activity in New Mexico. Now, the theories of an alleged inner Earth, maybe not like a hollow Earth, but highly advanced civilizations living within the Earth that have lived for thousands of years, that have, are genetically a little bit different, larger, smarter, more handsome, more capable. And like one of the guys, if you read the alleged Admiral Byrd's diary, now there's so many people that think that is just truth. Like it was him himself that wrote it. I don't know if he wrote it. I read it in full, and you can actually go to the Patreon and I do a full reading of that. And I leave people for their own opinions. But it doesn't really sound like, it sounds like it was written after. So whether or not it's true, there were, one of our presidents, was it Andrew Jackson? One of our presidents actually had the money and funding. They were putting together what they called an inner Earth expedition. Let me type this. I'll look at that in a minute, and I'll get to that in a minute. But if this is legit, where am I going with this? Stay with me on this. If these craft, if these UAPs started flying over the Earth and flying over these sensitive nuclear sites after we started testing nuclear weapons, is it more likely, I want to get your thoughts on this. Just think about this for a minute. I really want to read your comments. Is it more likely that they came from Zeta Reticuli or from outer space because they were worried about us? Or is it more likely they came from here? Now, if there is an illustrious civilization that lives within the Earth, and they have high technologies, and they've been able to survive multiple epochs because inner Earth might be more protected from space and space debris and the wars in the heavens, metaphorically speaking, asteroids, comets, hurricanes, all that kind of stuff. If you could be a civilization and get the food and shelter you need and thrive for tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of years without reset, without some type of war, or, like you're living in harmony, imagine your capabilities and abilities. And then the people on the surface are causing ruckus. They're creating these new weapons. They're causing mass destruction. They're like, look, man, we better get up there and see what's going on and tell them to knock it off, because that's affecting us down here. Or would it make more sense that they came from outer space and they're like, dude, you're messing with the quantum vortex of the fifth dimension, man. We can feel this all the way in Zeta Reticuli, man. So we're going to come to Earth and we're going to probe you. And we're going to go stop at the veterinarian's office and pick up something at the veterinarian's office to use for that. That doesn't make sense to me. But that's, if you put together some of the reports, that's the way that they describe it. Aliens came from Zeta Reticuli to Earth, and they're like, oh, there's a cow. Speaking of these cattle mutilations, the pioneer, the man, the myth, now the legend, I might get a little emotional here, personal friend of mine, Christopher O'Brien, recently, he passed. And we love you, Chris. We love you, Christopher. You're a good man. I'm so glad I had a chance to meet you. I'm so glad I had a chance to hang out with you up there at Crestone. You're a good dude, man. And thank you for what you did for the community. He went to multiple locations after these, like on site, on scene, where these cattle mutilations took place. And the majority of these cattle mutilations, folks, like almost all of them, they're not aliens. Let's just put it that way. Okay. If you come here from Zeta Reticuli why do you need to stop and pick up a couple of cows at the local ranchers to bathe in their cow pots? No. Now, there might be a couple examples where if you're traveling from another galaxy, or if you're going to check up on Earth and you want to make sure you're like, well, let's see what's going on. There's been a lot of nuclear testing. There's a lot of radiation and isotopes. There's a lot of stuff going on. Let's go see what the cows are picking up. Like, that would make more sense. But I've heard some absolutely ridiculous theories. And Christopher O'Brien has written like 700-page books on these cattle mutilations and the Mysterious Valley. So get his books while you still have a chance, while they're still out there. The Mysterious Valley, and then Stalking the Herd. That was like his biggest book that he wrote. He was even working on some TV series and stuff before that happened. But he took me up. He showed me a bunch of spots, folks. Like, he took me to all these different spots in Crestone where these weird activities and places. He took me to this one cabin. Well, anyway, I'll tell you about that later. But what they found in the fridge of that cabin like 30 years ago, and what was reported in the fridge, well, that fridge was still there. We looked in the fridge. Luckily, what was in the fridge reported 30 years ago wasn't there when we went there. But anyway, dude, it was weird. So this guy had really tough time breathing. And he still took me out to this location at almost 10,000 plus feet elevation in north of Crestone, where the oldest turquoise mine in the North Americas is located. He took me up there, barely able to breathe. And that's the kind of guy this was. I felt so bad afterwards. Like, man, I shouldn't have let you do that. I came home, and then that next weekend I drove up to Crestone because he was still there. Or just a few days later, I drove up to Crestone and I brought him a bunch of canned oxygen. I brought him oxygen cans. I'm like, here, man, enjoy. What a good dude. Oh, he's going to be missed. He told me some stories about his previous best friend before his best friend passed. It was roommates with Bush Jr. in college. And wow, oh my, the stories he told. But anyway, so is anybody still there? Everybody left. Like, all right, Rex, get back to your point. Sorry, I'm digressing. We love you, Christopher. So, this is the flap. In July 1952, Washington, D.C. experienced a series of unexplained aerial phenomena, commonly referred to as the Washington Flap, or the invasion of Washington. These events garnered significant media attention and prompted official investigations. The timeline of the events, July 19th through 20th, 1952, shortly before midnight, July 19th, air traffic controllers at Washington National Airport detected multiple unidentified objects on radar. These objects were observed over key locations, including the White House and the Capitol. Witnesses reported bright lights moving erratically at high speeds. When the U.S. Air Force F-94 Starfire jets were scrambled to intercept, the objects vanished only to reappear once the jets departed. Well, the cool people are still in the chat. Hey, everybody. Good to see y'all. Alan, good to see you. Silver Sage. Aaron, it is I, Willie. Stay tuned. Spaceman, Catherine, George, Acoustic, Denise, Chilled, Sean, Joe, Big Mike, if I missed you, sorry. Great to see you. Thank you so much for being here with me. So let's go back to these reports. So we had a multitude of reports. The reason this is important is because somebody said, look, man, that photograph of what looks like orbs over the White House, that's just photo that the superimposed lights from the ground were superimposed above it. And I said, okay, that's cool. Yeah, thank you for showing us that. That's important. We need to know the data here. Also, if we take that and just completely get rid of that, there were so many eyewitnesses and multiple reports, people working at flight radar, seeing these anomalies. And it was for 17 days. Very significant. So these objects were observed over key locations, including the White House and Capitol. Witnesses reported bright lights moving erratically at high speeds. When the United States Air Force F-94 Starfire jets were scrambled to intercept, the objects vanished only to reappear once the jets departed. That's not, see, people are trying to blame these events. They're like, dude, it was weather anomalies, man. It was swamp gas. No, I'm serious. It was swamp gas. Come on. The swamp gas just appears over the White House and over key sensitive spots and then disappears. It shows up when the jets are not there, but when the jets are there, they disappear. And then when the jets are gone, they come back. Yeah, weather phenomena. Swamp gas from Uranus. And people are like, yeah, dude, it's swamp gas, I swear. Like, who's the conspiracy theorist now? I'm just asking. July 26th through 27th, 1952. A week later, similar sightings occurred. Pilots and ground personnel reported bright lights and radar contact. Again, interceptor jets were deployed, and while some pilots reported seeing the lights, they were unable to get close enough for identification. Public and media reaction. These incidents led to widespread media coverage with headlines speculating about flying saucers over the nation's capital. The public expressed both fascination and concern, prompting official responses from the Air Force. Official investigations, the United States Air Force Project Blue Book, tasked with investigating UFO reports, looked into the events. The Air Force attributed the sightings to temperature inversions, which can... Yeah! Oh, yes, it was the temperature inversions. That's what it was. It wasn't swamp gas. It was just the temperature inversions. We're the professionals. We know, man. The temperature inversions. Come on. Oh. Look, I'm sure that happens. I'll bet you there's cases where that actually happens. We're like, dude, it's a flying saucer. Oh, it's a temperature inversion. What was I thinking? That might happen once in a while. But to say all the events were temperature inversions, come on now. We can't cause alarm. Just tell people it was a temperature inversion. They'll believe it. The 1952 Washington, D.C. UFO sightings remain a significant chapter in the history of unidentified aerial phenomena. But it's just temperature inversions, highlighting the tension between public perception and official explanations during the early years of the Cold War. For a visual overview, this might be an informative video for you to watch on YouTube. History Channel, there you go. Like, that's amazing. And I like it when they bring up stuff like, well, you know, we reanalyzed the data, and really, it looks like that thing's traveling at hundreds of miles an hour, that UAP, but it's really not traveling that fast. We use trigonometry, and based upon our trigonometry, we can tell that the way that you are observing this, it's probably not going as fast as you think it is. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, for people that if I don't want to have a, how do I put this? I'm just going to say, dude, I did the trigonometry on it. And do you know trigonometry? They're going to be like, no. Well, then you can't do it because you don't know trigonometry. What a great way to divert the conversation, right? Dude, based on the calculations of the trigonometry, and they're like, oh, that's what you start sounding like when you start talking about trigonometry or calculus. Look, there's people out there that get it. I understand. Like, I know people that are brilliant that can do calculus and trigonometry, but most people, when you start talking about trigonometry and calculus, you're just going to... So that's a great way to debunk something, right? Well, the trigonometry and the calculus show that it's only going... Well, I don't know exactly how fast, but it's not going as fast as you think it is. So, aliens, what are you thinking? Hobby drones and swamp gas from Uranus. A lot going on, folks. It's pretty exciting, though. I think it's pretty exciting, the opportunities that we have here. So thank you for watching. I hope you have an awesome day. Let me read through some of your comments now, and I'll answer some questions for you if you have any. But was the audio and video okay on this? How was everything? Oh, not as many people are in the chat, so I guess it wasn't as interesting as it once was. Silver Sage brought up something that you may want to go check it out. Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. What if it's a bunch of aliens named Alan? Well, I have a good friend named Alien Alan. He's a cool guy. He showed me some petroglyphs in the desert of Utah that looked like Viking sailboats, which is very interesting. Much love to you also. Thank you. That's too bad because I've got Starlink right there looking right at me. It's supposed to be good. I hope it all came in okay, though. I hope you picked up on it. And yeah, check us out over on Patreon, will you? And hit that thumbs up for me. Sounds like you had to refresh a bunch, huh? Too bad. Sorry to hear that. All right, well, I guess. Hey, Cat. Cat's in the chat. DJ says, what if it's just the government? Well, hey, then you got nothing to worry about. But that's not very exciting. Unless they're trying to create some psychological operation. But it wouldn't be the government. The government wouldn't be involved in that. They got other stuff to do. Like, I don't know. I mean, anyway, there's a lot of them, right? I got family that works in the government, and they think it's funny when people say, dude, it's the government, because it's usually not. But anyway, so now, could there be manipulative factors that orchestrate themselves outside of certain facilities? Possibly. Let's see here. DJ says aliens are not real. Prove to me that they're not real. Prove to me they're not. I mean, I can't prove to you that they are, but can you prove to me they're not? I would say there's a much better chance that aliens are real, especially if we look at how massive the universe is, and that's just the third dimension. So, I mean, even our planet is gigantic. So, you know, I even thought that if I wore the, well, I guess there will be a part 2, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. Sometimes. Electric says he had Taco Bell last night, so he's definitely got swamp gas from his anus. All right, man, I'm going to turn this off right now. Starting to get strange in here. Be the change you want to see, everybody. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.